All right, everybody, welcome to the February 3rd wasmCloud community meeting. wasmCloud is a platform for writing portable business logic that can run anywhere from the edge of the cloud, that boasts a secure by default boilerplate-free developer experience with a rapid feedback loop. And we've gotten into a tradition of starting our meet. Actually, do we have any new people here today? Justin, is this your first meeting today?
No, it's not. Last week was my first.
Okay, I can't remember if we did an intro last week or not. With our new tradition of trying to start each meeting with the demo, we're going to start by looking at the new doc site, which is live. You can pull along at wasmcloud.dev and follow along. Kevin, do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to share?
You're probably going to have to share. I can't seem to get it to pick Firefox tabs.
All good. All right, so even though this is in flight, we thought we'd go ahead and just push this out live. Everybody see my screen okay? Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
I'm not really sure what there is to say here other than, we've basically been rewriting our documentation from the ground up. Over the last year or so, we've just sort of been documenting things in a fairly organic way, and that ended up producing some fairly disorganized docs, and some of it was out of date. And so with this new 0.15 release, where we basically rewrote wasmCloud from the ground up, we're doing the same for the documentation. And what we want is sort of different sections of the documentation depending on what your goal is. So we've separated it into the landing page for, when you just hit it through a search query or something. If you're trying to build applications with actors, then we have all of the purpose-driven guides for that. And then if you are doing platform building, there's a whole section of guides for building platforms on top of wasmCloud. And then both the app development and platform building sections sit on top of the full reference, where if you want the excruciating retina-searing detail on things, that's where to go.
All right, that's awesome. And Kevin, what do you think the best way for people is to engage and help you out with this effort right now?
Pull requests, probably. Pull requests and issues. Just go to we have the GitHub repo for the doc site. We know that there is a ton missing, so there's probably no need to flag pages that have TBD written on them as not done. But if you have issues with what's there, or you think that there's content missing that isn't flagged with TBD, then by all means, drop an issue in there and we'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. And I'll go ahead and transition it into, I've got another demo here. I'm going to try to cut the new landing page this week, and I'm pairing back to what I think is the MVP of the landing page. So it'll be the main page, some get wasmCloud links, taking you into our linking into docs, GitHub, and packages, a link to the documentation you just saw, and then a link to our various community resources, like where do you find our stuff here. And then there was a pre-call discussion that we were kind of talking through around the experience that we're working towards around, having some Kata coded tutorials, or what is that experience going to be like, some kind of live environment you can land on. That's something that we're still kind of thinking through, but we want to get everything cut over. And what I'd love to stop quickly and get some feedback on is, I've got kind of some of the value props kind of called out here on rapid development, polyglot platform, pleasantly portable, completely connected, securely scalable, but I need to do some images. So what I'd like to spend a few minutes doing is walking everybody through a Jamboard and getting some feedback here on some of these images. So let me do this. Let's see if I can do this two ways here. Here's when we're thinking about the architecture, this was the kind of map that we came up with. And I'd love to just open the call here and let anybody, chime in on this. And tell me what you think if this starts to tell the story. We're not sure what the kind of shape should look like for the general architecture. But at the bottom, we think we call out, that you've got your choice of WASM runtimes. Right now, WASM 3 and WASM time by default. Talk about why we have WASM 3 as the default, because there's no cold start penalty, but for long-term prod, WASM time may be a good choice. Mention the WAPC intermediate layer, and then talk about the application runtime on the top. So does this image resonate with everybody? The next few kind of break it into more detail. Radu, anybody comments? Okay. So then we're going to sketch out, maybe some slides here or some little call out boxes on the side that maybe kind of walk through in an animated GIF style or something. And at the bottom, we say, this is where the sandbox comes from. This enables cross-platform portability. This enables deny by default. The WAPC layer enables the bidirectional RPCs and polyglot contract-driven development. You just write your WDL, and then you choose your language, and you get your templates generated. And then at the top, we've got declarative deployments with the scheduler, the distributed runtime, scaffold generation, and everything else. We kind of toyed with an analogy around making some analogies to compatible with Kubernetes, but not dependent upon. But I think the platform slides are probably another whole set of concepts here. And then we wanted to document sort of how we thought the lattice worked, which we would show whatever shape we align on, if they're pyramids or, like little triangles or whatever these things are going to be, that we show a bunch of them connected through lattices, and then lattices connected through lattices. So we're talking about the distributed mesh and multi-tenant mesh. Kevin had a concept around maybe doing, like trees and leaves here. Kevin, did I accurately capture that, or do you want to expand on that a bit?
Well, just one of the other possible visualizations is a graph with leaf nodes on it, but I'm certainly not fixed on that one solution. No, not actual real trees.
Oh, not real trees? Okay. Oh, I just wanted to just be a little interactive with you, that's all. Okay, so you think that maybe the feedback here is maybe we research like a graph node art and maybe try to be inspired on that, right?
Or, we could take some inspiration from Pac-Man and do pretzels and cherries.
I'm not going to draw Pac-Man because it would truly show how terrible of an artist I truly am. And this is where things kind of fell apart, is that our app started to look like a mushroom a bit here. So when we started to think about even how we defined an application in wasmCloud, we really, we teased out a couple of ideas here we thought that were important to highlight. The first was that the sort of underlying infrastructure doesn't influence the design, which felt like a really powerful concept that we weren't emphasizing enough here, that, this app topologically could all be running on one box, on multiple boxes through Lattice, that all of those details were abstracted away from us, and that the runtime decides where. So this is where we were trying to think through, this is supposed to be, actor 1, actor 2, with capabilities 1 and 2, maybe some Lattice. And then we think about, the kind of like deployment here, how we're going to surface that as a picture. I think we need some help for. And this is where the pyramid doesn't feel right to me. Even if we just do like some columns together, I feel like we could tell a better story around the different layers of abstraction here, and when they come into play. And then when we started to talk through composing the application, we have this idea of a what was the directed napkin sketch, Kevin? What was the word we came up with there?
Yeah, I think it was something like directed napkin sketch.
Yeah, the napkin sketch the story we thought about telling here was that, day one, when developers first sit down and design their app, on this proverbial napkin sketch, you'd start by just sketching out, logic blocks here and saying, this is, I'm doing my work here, on my thing, it's going to talk to the database, and then it's going to talk to the world. And that was the kind of thought process we were going through here. So if we stick with the napkin sketch, maybe this shows up as, a series of boxes where we say like, step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we start by having, the napkin sketch is, 1, maybe the step 2 is then, you run the wizard, right? But we need some simple way to sort of like, what's our 1, 2, 3 journey here to tell it. So that's what we're trying to sketch around there with the various app models and things like that. And then so our story time became step 1 is going to be this directed napkin graph, kind of sketch. And then step 2 is scaffold. Step 4 is step 3 is providers. Maybe this was 2B, was providers are built rarely, so we make that another journey. And then step 4 is exec, and we obviously forgot profit on here, which we should do in green. Profit, which should be on there, right? Does this resonate with you guys as far as like the 3 steps or the 4 steps being this? Anybody?
I have a little bit of feedback if this
Please.
is a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to channel my inner Ronan. So Ronan developed almost all of the open source websites from Dapper and Rudder to Helm and Brigade and all of the ones we've done. And his sort of design principle is figure out what the simple story you want to tell up front is. Tell that one on the first step, and then gradually increase complexity. So if you're targeting developers, step 1 should be, either the napkin story, or if you want to go 1 step prior to that and do the super simple hello world actor story, right? And then you just kind of increment through, and then toward the end, that's when you transition to the operator story. If you're shooting for developers first, right? If it's operators first, start with the simple operator story, tell them what exact problem you're solving, then go into the because if you hit them with the complex part first, they assume that it starts complex and gets more so from there. They don't assume that
the simple story is like folding a napkin into a paper airplane and sailing it towards production.
Yeah. And if that's, starting, that's actually a great analogy.
That's actually that would make for a pretty good video, I think.
And then because the people who are most likely to be your early adopters are the ones who want to get from 0 to endorphins and
developers who want instant gratification on being able to see their design run.
Yeah. And then the other, the people who are trying to get the full depth view of it will click through all the different steps to see everything. But if you start with here's all the power you get, and it's a big overwhelming diagram, then you lose your tire kickers right away.
Yeah, the complexity should be exposed on demand rather than shoveled at you.
Yeah, so that's the way Ronan tends to design sites. Actually, one of my favorite ones he ever did was the draft.sh site, just because of the way he tried to use some of the background imagery to convey some of it. So you see, yeah, as it loads, you'll see the little sort of like step-by-step thing that he did. It just kind of.
Yeah, I like this. I think something similar might be usable for what we're doing, where you have the napkin, then the sketch on it, and then it gets shipped to prod, sort of a thing.
Yeah, and you'll have a lot of challenge in displaying the power of the lattice in that same kind of really intuitive one, but I have faith.
All right, no, I love this. Okay, so we think that up here at the top, this image should be the napkin sketch. It should be an animated GIF that's like, 1, I draw on a napkin, 2, I fold the napkin, and 3, I throw it into prod or something like that. Okay, or like maybe the napkin becomes real and then it goes into prod or something along those lines. Okay, All right. Well, there's definitely a ton of inspiration there on onto what we should be doing there, and I definitely love all those concepts. This is super helpful from a feedback perspective. So thank you, Matt. Does anyone else have any conceptual ideas they wanted to kind of like talk through or suggestions?
One note, there were in all the architecture slides, I think providers was only mentioned once. Was that deliberate or was that omitted by accident? Just because there's talk about actors, capabilities, but no real talk about providers and until the 4-step process where it's kind of like a side note.
Well, so in the interest of trying to keep complexity pulled up on demand, developers who are trying to build the simple actors, they should be able to reuse all of the stock capability providers in order to get their design running in production. It's only when they sort of go beyond the basic hello world steps and they want more complexity that we then introduce the idea of, you know, arbitrary providers or creating your own providers, things like that.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
That's a great, but I think that is aligned to the kind of journey of the starting simple and then ending complex. You know, we toyed around forever with this concept of honeycombs and beehives and, you know, stuff like that. And we'd even like talked about, instead of wasmCloud, maybe trying to call it LiveHive or something like that. So none of that really stuck all that well. But this was a really great feedback when we think about how we're going to explain this journey. So I'll take this back and I'm going to cut the landing page regardless. So watch for like, you know, a really pathetic set of images here for this, and probably, you know, these right here. I'll probably take screenshots from all the great demos you guys have given in the last few months and use those, and then look for us to just cut it. But thinking of like providers, we were already thinking through like, you know, how are we telling the story here on, you know, what's available in the ecosystem and, you know, those kind of things. Still, obviously, a lot of a boilerplate on this template. But I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And let's see. So let's go ahead and actually go back to the agenda here. But thank you for the feedback on that. I welcome any pointers in Slack or offline. If anybody, the call out to draft.sh is phenomenal. Butcher, thank you so much. A ton of community stuff going on right now. It's all listed on the agenda. I'll just run through some of this real quick. As a call out, there is early registration for KubeCon EU, and you can also register for a wasmCloud Conf Day, which is the May the 4th Cloud Native WebAssembly event that we'll hopefully all be participating in. I'd point out that this ends on February the 14th. And what sweetheart for Valentine's Day would not want a discounted early bird $10 admission all access pass to KubeCon? I know that my sweetheart who's sitting near me would love that. So just heads up to go ahead and get your registrations in.
Yeah, I'm giving those out instead of real presents.
I think those are great, actually. The WebAssembly Summit is April 22nd. The CFP for this has already closed. As more information comes out, I'll try to highlight it here. Kevin has a talk upcoming in the UK that we don't have any details for yet, but as soon as we do, I'll get it out on here and Twitter. Tomorrow is the Wasm Time bi-weekly meeting and open call. Any other events to call out? All right, so back to developer stuff as far as things to call out. I think, Brooks, you've been just trying to slay through the remaining actor interfaces here. Do you want to give us an update on that, maybe?
Sure, yeah. And you may have seen this in the wasmCloud channel. I think I threw it in there last night, just a list of all the interfaces, all the providers, all the examples that need to be updated. And true to the emoji, like the meat emoji, it's kind of a heavy list, but it doesn't include the work that we've already done. So we've already done a lot of work here. We only have, I think we only have one more actor interface to do in Rust once we merge in our open PRs that we have. So, and then once we do that, the providers and the examples are pretty much free game to refactor to the new interfaces. So, a lot of that work, it's all documented in those in that checklist. If you're looking to contribute to wasmCloud, I kind of put this call out in the channel, but if you've had your eye on a capability provider that you're interested in or something like that, feel free to take a look into it. But that's pretty much been my focus for the last couple of days, just getting those in.
Super. And if there's anybody in the call that's not in Slack, or anybody that watches this on YouTube later, I know we've got maybe 100 people that are consuming YouTube feeds. Feel free just to drop us an email or DM on Twitter, and we can add you directly to Slack if it's more convenient for you to get caught up. We're trying to build a really open and inclusive community here, which means we need more than developers. We need people to help with documentation, planning, organization, graphics, creative people. Everybody's welcome in wasmCloud, and that's the kind of community we're building out. I'd also call out, Brooks, you contributed a new provider this week on the GraphDB stuff. Do you want to speak to that briefly?
I can speak to it briefly. Yeah, we had an older example of ours included a Redis graph capability provider, which just allows you to interact with a Redis GraphDB. And we had an example that was an actor and interacted with a GraphDB. It was just a quick sample actor that was used. The actual capability used to be used in Gantry, the project that we used to host our old actors. Mm-hmm. But transitioning that to an actor interface was a pretty neat experience because we're kind of retrofitting our old code with these new interfaces. And it was a good learning experience to get into everything. And now our old example is updated to the 0.15 way and fully powered by an actor interface.
Okay, great. And then Fisher, I think you're getting ready to send over the Crosslit wasmCloud provider. Is that right?
Yeah, Taylor's actually going through that process right now. But yeah, we just finished the Crosslit version 0.6 release. And so with that, finalizing some of the stuff there, we're finally ready to kind of start cutting over the WASP provider, cut it out of the main.
Literally was just filtering the Git history in the background here. And exactly. So it's I'm just extracting things to preserve Git history and move it over. So it should be over today. I'm going to see if I can force push over the top of that. Otherwise, I should. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm just going to rewrite it with all of our history so it stays, and then do some renaming so it's no longer called the WASC provider. Awesome. The artist formerly known as WASC provider.
That's good because nothing bad has ever happened with a force push.
Well, no one's using the repo, so nothing should happen bad with this one.
Excellent. And then I'd actually turn it over now to anyone else. Kevin, if there's any other call outs, or Brooks or Chris, across the board here, anybody that has anything they want to call out on or highlight on the project side.
The first TinyGo actor interface is almost ready to go as well. I've got that. I'll probably be able to set up a pull request for that shortly after the meeting.
Okay, awesome.
I've got two things I like to call out. One thing, I don't know if Gustav is on the call right now, but he submitted an awesome feature to Wash earlier this week that made it so that all the commands get executed in a separate thread. And what that means is previously when you're executing things in the REPL, you would run your command, wait for it to finish, or at least to acknowledge that you made that command, and then you can start typing again. Now, the way that it is where those commands are run in the background, everything's like executed asynchronously. So as you're typing in commands, they're executed and then you can watch the output come in, but you don't actually sit there waiting for anything to happen anymore, which is awesome. And so I don't see him on the call, but thank you to Gustav for putting that in. And the last thing is that people seemed pretty interested in the KV counter example that we've been running for the demos in various forms and fashions. Oh yeah, if you want to take a look at what this looks like, pasting in a demo script is like executes immediately, and then you can see events happening on the host as time goes on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, sorry, Brooks, I didn't mean to cut you off on your next point there. I was just trying to do some narration or some visualization as you were going along.
Yeah, no worries. So the other thing, people seem pretty interested in the KV counter script that we have, and now that we have all of our artifacts published to our Azure Container Registry, I wrote up a little bash script. I put it in the chat if you wanted to, if anybody wants to play with this. It just schedules the actors and providers that you need for the KV counter example, and then gives you the example curl and example call requests that you can do. So this is kind of just an in advance way of getting this out there before our documentation is written. But if anybody was looking to play around with a local host and they haven't done anything yet, all you need is wash and then the Docker compose that comes in the repo. So it's pretty well self-contained.
Great. And all the packages are available there for anybody that wants to experiment with this. You can, they're up on wasmCloud. They're linked at wasmCloud.dev as well for installing, and Brew's available too to get Wash going on natively on a Mac. And so, Brooks, is this Wash tools directory? Is this where, you're going to build out some of these little toy demos and, like examples here?
For now, I think that's what it makes sense to put in there. Thought about having like an examples directory, but that seems like something that would belong more in the wasmCloud the wasmCloud runtime repo if we're going to be starting a host and scheduling things on it. So for now, I'd love to keep putting these little quick snippets here so that people can get started, because that's what Wash is trying to do, make it easier to get people to get started with wasmCloud.
And I call out for anybody that's, following along because they think there's a lot of potential in this project, but hasn't felt comfortable contributing. Your inexperience is a huge asset to us. I fielded a call from somebody last week, and they were a little frustrated that they hadn't found a place to plug in. And I said, well, look, running this demo as a first timer is priceless to us right now. Because what I would love people to do is open up a Google Doc when you do that, and write down your questions that you have around what you thought, what you were thinking, what you thought you had to do, what your perceptions were. That's super valuable feedback to us at the moment, because it helps us to understand. We've all been immersed in this for so long. We're not even aware of the hidden assumptions and biases and sort of insights that we bring to our simple demos. And we're missing some of that sort of first timer experience. So a call out to anybody that would love to do that would be much appreciated, and your feedback there. Okay, awesome. Anyone else? Anyone on the call? Anybody in the related ecosystem? Microsoft folks? Anyone else? All right. Well, I think we had a pretty fast call today. We are, really close to, tying this one off, and we need to get the, the release party scheduled. I'm late on that, but everyone in Slack is more than welcome to come. It'll be a similar snow globe theme that we had in the last one. Upcoming documentations or upcoming demos. Phil has been kind of thinking through his vision on how he's going to do the WDL kind of walkthrough and demo, underneath the hood here. We've got the Bindle conversation still to have. We've got the sort of updated code gen and possibly pulling the generator from the WPC layer up into Wash. I would love to get a larger crustlet update. I guess we got one last week. Then Katakoda tutorials, crustlet WASM 3 on small devices. Kevin's working on his edX class and the Yeoman WAPC, kind of stuff that we've heard about. Those would all make great topics. Anyone else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and just stop recording. We can all hang on and kind of hang out a bit.